afternoon, Pokésports, and welcome to a best competitive returning Pokemon tier list. Yes, you heard that right. We're going to be looking at every single returning Pokemon that will be coming to Pokemon Scarlet and Violet and tiering them appropriately, whether it be S+ tier, F tier, all the tiers down the line, and seeing exactly what we have coming in and what we can work with so far. Now, with that said, I will be looking at leaks in this video, so let this be your fair warning that there will be spoilers in this video. And on top of that, I will be using this image as fact, theoretically fact, right? Because we don't exactly know if this is the exact returning list at the moment, but this is what we're going to be looking at today. This is the most confirmed Pokemon that we know of so far and the most credible list that we have at the moment. Really quick rundown. I'm not going to be looking at any of these home Pokemon down below simply because a lot of them we haven't had the chance to play with yet because they're from Hisui. And a lot of them we don't know whether they're going to be entering the game from day one. So we're just going to keep this at every Pokemon that is currently in the physical cartridge at the moment. I also won't be revealing any new Pokemon if that's what you're afraid to get leaked about. So you stick around and keep watching. I'm only going to refer to Pokemon that we currently know exists in the world. With all that nonsense out of the way, let's go ahead and get started with today's tier list. Oh boy, it's been so long since I did a tier list, but I guess this is where we are in the world. Let's go ahead and see what Pokemon we got to work with. Now, just to help us define what we think our S+ tier is, I'm going to give you guys a little bit of a taste of S+, just so you guys can kind of understand what Pokemon will be going there and why they will be going there. We're going to go with, bam! Our boy Arcanine. Arcanine. This is a dex with no instant in it. So that means Arcanine is the theoretical best intimidator that is getting added to this generation. Of course, with terrestrialization changing and doing its thing, we don't exactly know what Terra-type Pokemon will be popular. We don't know if water is going to be popular, if rock's going to be popular, if ground is going to be popular. We don't know if the weaknesses that the Arcanine have are going to be very popular. But we do know that Arcanine does get Will-O-Wisp, does get Snarl, does get Extreme Speed, does get Heat Wave, does have an incredibly high offensive and defensive stat distribution. So I can go ahead and say that in a meta where Instant doesn't exist, Arcanine will definitely pop off. Now, some solid A tier that we have here is Raichu. I think Raichu, especially the Raichu that's going to get added with, having a Flying Terra, can definitely make some things happen. Raichu's a great fake out mon. Does get things like Encore, does have Lightning Rod. So if, you got one of those sneaky Pokemon that just want to Terra type into an electric type, you're able to kind of compensate for that. Gyarados is another Pokemon that has like a lot of coverage. I think I'd put Gyarados probably in the S tier, maybe the A tier. Just simply because I think Gyarados is great in terms of stats distributions. I also think it's great because it gets a lot of it becomes a very strong powerhouse, especially really early on in the game. So I think it's definitely going to tear it up as well. Amoonguss. Oh my goodness, Amoonguss. Oh yeah. Amoonguss is going here, man. It has to. Amoonguss, in fact, I would maybe put it above Arcanine. Actually, no, I'm keeping it behind Arcanine. Simply because in the fight, Arcanine wins. But yeah, Amoonguss Spore, right? It's just Spore. That's going to be very, very strong. And on top of that, Rage Powder is going to be another big thing for this current meta. Now, I'm wondering how terrestrialization works with Rage Powder, right? Because if you terrestrialize, like, say, this Gyarados into a grass type, does that mean that it could now ignore your Amoonguss's redirection thanks to Rage Powder? Does that mean that now this Gyarados can't get slept by Amoonguss because of Spore? Could be. Could be. Which, hey, would take a nice solid hit on that on this rating. Who knows, right? But as it stands now, Amoonguss is definitely top tier. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. That's a scary Pokemon. I want to throw in some Fs in here. I'm gonna say Dunsparce is kind of trash. Maybe something will happen with this thing. I ain't saying it, but maybe something will happen. Another one, probably Sunflora, we can put in trash tier as well. Sunflora just has nothing going on for it. I'll say a solid D, probably Persian, right? Persian can do damage, does have things like Fake Out, does have things like Normal Gen Boosted Fake Out, and other supportive options. I just think there are a lot better options, and that's kind of how I'm going to treat the D tier in this episode. Pokemon that can be good, but there are better options that exist. So you're like, why would I use this when I can use X? I think Dragapult's going to be an absolute monster. I'm not too convinced about S+ tier, though. I think Dragapult might actually be S tier. And the reason for that is I think Dragapult without Dynamax does take kind of a hard hit. Dragapult was really good in the Dynamax format, but the second they eliminated Dynamax from the game, Dragapult disappeared from existence, right? But at the same time, it can still function in other assets. It can function with Reflect, Light Screen, Will-O-Wisp, etc. It could be a damage dealer. It's definitely gonna be one of the fastest Pokemon in the Pokedex, and I think that's something worth mentioning. But it's making me consider that, hey, maybe I want to throw Gyarados down here now, because I'm not convinced that Gyarados will be as strong as Dragapult. I do think Dragapult will be a lot stronger. Speaking of dragon types, I think Dragonite can actually do something this generation. Now, the reason I think this is because Terastallizing is going to really buff Dragonite a lot. Dragonite has an incredible amount of coverage moves, Fire Blast and Ice Beam and Blizzard. You know, you got all the moves under the sun. So you can definitely make some things happen with Dragonite. And I think that plus the inner focus and a bunch of fast fake outers like this Raichu, you know, Dragonite's going to make some plays. Speaking of move pool, Nidoking. Nidoking and Nidoqueen are going to be solid B tier. Simply because, yes, they do get a great move pool, right? They both each get the exact same move pool. They both have Sheer Force Life Orb, which is really great and does a lot of damage. You can now boost that with Terastallization if you want to just like Sheer Force Life Orb boost yourself into a ground type and also lose your psychic weakness and lose your ground weakness on top of that. But the issue that holds them back is speed. They are not fast enough to do those things. It can work in practice, but they're in just the most awkward speed tier in existence. They're in such an awkward speed tier that you like don't know if they want to go fast, don't know if they want to go slow, don't know how they can outpace your opponent. It gets really hard to outpace your opponent. So that's why I'm sticking them in a solid B. Tyranitar though, oof, I would give this S+. In fact, I might. And the only reason I say I might is because Tyranitar is a weather setter while also being one of the most busted Pokemon to get introduced this generation. And it currently stands out, in my opinion, as one of the strongest Pokemon that is going to enter the metagame. Now, I know I've already gotten a lot of S+ tiers. I promise I'm going to start being a lot more strict when it comes to who I stick in that tier. But I find it really hard to believe that Tyranitar is not going to take it over. Tyranitar has always taken over every regional dex format that it's been allowed to take over. Tyranitar does well. So that's the point I'm trying to get across. It can also get rid of its fighting type weakness by giving it a ghost type. You can also just increase your stab with the rock type. You got so many options here on a Pokemon that just honestly has way too many stats for its own good. I think Breloom's really going to have some time to shine here. Now, the unfortunate thing about Breloom is that, again, it's in this awkward speed tier, kind of similarly with the Nidokings and the Nidoqueens of the world. But the issue that Nidoking and Nidoqueen have is that they don't have Spore. Spore is one of the most broken and scarce moves in the game. Only mushrooms get it. So just having access to that move and being that fast and having the ability to go for that move that fast, plus the addition that you have a very good ability that in Technician, so you do boosted damage with the Bullet Seeds, and you also do boosted damage with the Mach Punch. I think Breloom's going to have a nice time this generation. Another solid A, probably Gengar. I feel like Gengar is kind of unfortunate because Dragapult does what Gengar does, but a little bit better because it's faster. Gengar's gotten that Gen 1 problem where it's just like every generation that it just sits there, it gets constantly power crept on. It lost its cool ability in Levitate. It got you know, Cursed Body now, which is a big L on Gengar. But I do think that as being a fast Pokemon, and since we don't have a bunch of restricteds that outspeed the whole metagame right now, it could do some things. I might even consider changing it to B. I'm not sure, just simply because the Dragapult is just so much better than the Gengar in nearly every single way. I guess we'll see how this list starts to develop later down the line. Yeah, I've already changed my mind. Yeah, Scissor's going to A tier, so that means I'm gonna put Gengar down here with Nidoking and Nidoqueen. Scizor is a great Pokemon, and I think in this rain meta, Scizor is going to definitely have a niche, right? Scizor fell back very far when it was introduced in the Isle of Armor. First of all, it was introduced in the Isle of Armor. So that means that when we got to play it, we were already playing with every single Gmax, a bunch of new restricted Pokemon, a bunch of legends. No restricteds, but, you know, a bunch of legends like Thundurus and, you know, Landorus, etc. So when we got Scizor, the problem, the meta was already set. And on top of that, Scizor doesn't want to Dynamax. So it doesn't even want to be that Pokemon to Dynamax on your side of the field and really just snowball a game. It kind of wants to sit there, do damage with Technician, always go first, have a great move pool and type coverage. I don't think it's going to be necessarily a great Terastallize user, and unless maybe you want to just like mono Terastallize to steal, get those super boosted bullet punches. That would be really nice. But as it stands, I think it's going to be a solid A tier. I gotta see more from it to convince me, because I remember Scizor being very good back in Gen 6, but, you know, it's been a while since Scizor was relevant. Delibird, F. Stantler, F. I don't see Stantler doing anything, especially now that we have Weirdeer. We have to see more of what Weirdeer can do, but at the moment, we have Weirdeer, so it's like, what's the point of running Stantler? Kind of the same thing with Girafarig. I don't think there's a purpose to Girafarig. I do think there's a purpose to Farigiraf, and until we find out those stats, then we really got to wait and see what that purpose is. I'm also going to say the same thing for Quillfish, except the thing with Quillfish is that at least you get Intimidate, but again, we have Overquill. that has been invented and is currently gonna be on the home list. So we will see Overquill in action. Maybe you could do something with like an Eviolite Quillfish, but again, you gotta see it to believe it. Murkrow though, hold on. You guys are, this is gonna be a controversial place for this Murkrow. I'm gonna put Murkrow, it's between A and B. I'm gonna settle it in A, and the reason for that is, I have a reason. The Murkrow is gonna be one of the few priority Tailwind setters in the game, and on top of that, it's also one of the few Quash priority Prankster mons in the game. Now, this does bring me back to my point that I was making with the Moongus. If Prankster is very popular, what is stopping a Pokemon from saying Terra Dark typing, receive that Prankster immunity as a Dark type, and then just like ignoring the Quash? Theoretically, yeah, you can do that, most likely. We're just gonna have to wait and see how prevalent Murkrow is in the metagame. But, you know, being a priority Tailwind setter with Whimsicott gone is a huge plus for this Pokemon, and I can easily see it being an A tier. Slacking is gonna be kind of the definition of C tier. There might be some things you can do with it to remove its ability, but as it stands with the list of Pokemon we have so far, there is no Galarian Weezing in this game, and there's no regular Cantonian Weezing in the game either. So you can't just switch in, get rid of your Truant, and then go to town. Unfortunately, that's the thing with Slacking. Its stats are so high, they rival legendary Pokemon, but yet its ability is so bad that you just kind of get shafted down to the C tier, and that's just the honest truth, man. Like, Slaking belongs here for sure. Honestly, now that I'm looking at Slaking, I'm even gonna stick it in D tier. I think it just really does struggle just because of that bad ability. Maybe there might be a way or a worry seed to get rid of it, but no. I'm gonna go ahead, stick Vaporeon in C, Jolteon in C, and then maybe Flareon in D. Flareon is a really hard one to justify, especially when so many cool new fire Pokemon are entering the game. Especially since so many cool fire Pokemon like Arcanine are already S+ tier, probably going to be used in every single team. So there's really no use to bring that Flareon on over. The Azumarill is going to be really nice, especially because huge power Azumarill, right? We could probably do belly button things with a redirector. We will have access to Indeedee, and I guess we'll get onto Indeedee later down in the list. You know, we're going to have access to redirection. You can go for the belly drum, go for the Aqua Jet spam, use that huge power boost, take some lives. I think Azumarill is definitely going to be one of the more staple water types. Tentacruel, kind of a C Pokemon. It doesn't really do anything special. We have things also like Dugtrio, kind of a C, maybe a B, just because Dugtrio can at least use Arena Trap. In fact, yeah, I will stick it in C. It is very fast. It can use Arena Trap, but the problem with it is that its stats are just absolute garbage. So you just get one shot by pretty much everything. Garchomp, ooh, I guess S tier is becoming the Dragon tier. Garchomp, one of the best stat distributions in the game. I know I've said that for a lot of Pokemon today, especially a lot of Pokemon up here. But Garchomp truly has one of the best stat distributions in the game. Does have a weakness to ice. I don't know how common ice Terra type is going to be, but if that's the case, now Garchomp might have a couple of things to worry about. Of course, you could always unterra yourself to something else. Garchomp has a really good move pool in general, so you can tear into like a fire type, you can tear into a rock type, a ground type, etc. So overall, Garchomp is not going to be in a bad place. I find it very hard to believe Garchomp is going to be in a bad place. The only way I could see Garchomp being in an awful place is if Dragapult if that outspeeding is enough to stop Garchomp in its tracks. Okay, Mawile F, Jumpluff F, Love Disc F, the biggest F, all the way down here. It does nothing. Ditto, meh, right? It's not going to be great. It's not going to be bad. It's going to be niche. Ditto is typically better in restricted formats, right? It's a great slappable Pokemon. It doesn't really matter what its typing is, what its stats are. You just kind of stick a Choice Scarf on it and let it go. Copy one of your opponents, and that's pretty much all that you can really do with Ditto. But, you know, it's better in restricted formats because it gives you another restricted. In regional formats, like, why not just stick another Pokemon there? You aren't limited with how many good Pokemon you can have on your team. So just kind of use your brain and figure out what you need on the team. And don't rely on Ditto. Ooh, Salamence. Okay. Salamence is going A tier. Salamence is going A tier just because Salamence is kind of in that awkward speed tier. It does get Intimidate, which does give it a little bit of a plus. It also does get Moxie if you want to go down that route as well. It does get a pretty good move pool also. Does have special capabilities and also physical capabilities. I think it's just too well-rounded on its stats, and that kind of hinders it a little bit. And also that 4 times weakness to ice kind of just makes it the worst option when comparing it to Garchomp. That's why I don't want to, like, say, do this, for example, put them in the same tier, because they're the same Pokemon. The Dragonite has the upper hand simply because Dragonite just gets multi-scale or inner focus. That goes a long way in competitive. So yeah, I think solid A. is a nice tier for Salamence here. Zangoose, kind of trash, F tier. Seviper, also kind of trash, F tier. They really don't do anything special in my opinion. There's not even a set for them that I would recommend to anybody. Torkoal, okay. Torkoal's gonna get interesting. Another setter here. I think all setters are at least A tier just for the simple fact that they're setters, right? There are so few Pokemon in the decks currently that can set weather automatically upon switching. So the fact that Torkoal can do that, I'm gonna give it a nice little bump to A tier for that. Even Pelipper, I'm willing to stick Pelipper in A tier for that simple fact as well. Am I saying Pelipper is maybe gonna beat Nazumaro one-on-one? No. Am I saying Pelipper is gonna enable other Pokemon that can beat Nazumaro one-on-one? Absolutely. Specifically, this Pokemon right here next to it. Chansey's a nuisance. Chansey's a nuisance, but it's a weird kind of nuisance, right? It's a nuisance, but it can't be countered with a simple taunt. So as long as you just have a Pokemon with taunt on your team, like this one, you should be A-okay. I'm still gonna put Chansey in. Honestly, I would say C tier just because the way you win with Chansey is very annoying. Chansey and Blissey are kind of the same Pokemon. They're so annoying to play against. Is it reliable though? I don't know. Can you constantly win with Chansey on the ladder until the end of time? No, especially not on the ranked ladder because you will get timed out on the showdown ladder. Maybe. But I'm just going to go ahead and say no for this. I'm going to go ahead and say C. I could be wrong on this, but this could also be personal vendetta, and it is my list. So I'm allowed to be spiteful here. I'm absolutely allowed to be spiteful. Gastrodon. Ooh. Gastrodon gets carried by its ability, and it gets carried hard by its ability. But you know what? A lot of water types are currently appearing on my list right now, and I think Gastrodon's a nice little way to deal with them. Nice little A tier for Gastrodon. The issue with Gastrodon is, of course, there are a lot of grass type Pokemon that we haven't yet gotten to on this list that can one-shot it, right? And now you can just tear it into any type you want. So those Pokemon with those 4x weaknesses really gotta slow down a little bit because you can tear it into one of those weaknesses and obliterate them from the face of the planet. Tropius, trash. Fortress D? I think just because in singles you can maybe do something with this. It has rapid spin and spikes and stuff. Electrode, kind of D also. Doesn't do enough damage to really be viable. It is kind of fast, but that's pretty much it. Slowbro's not bad though. And Slowbro's going to enter the mix of just the very strong water types here. I'm going to add on to the B tier here with the Slowbro. I think Slowbro is even better than Ditto in my opinion. Might even be better than Azumarill. Who knows? But Slowbro actually saw some competitive play this generation. If they're going to keep this Iron Defense Body Press thing, it could definitely take some lives again. It deals with steel types very well, and water and psychic as a defensive typing is really strong. Oh goodness, we have so many Pokemon left. I'm gonna say C tier for Tauros, kind of because Tauros can work, but only after it gets a little bit of an anger boost, you know. Sudowoodo D tier, not impressed by Sudowoodo. They showed it Terra typing in the trailer. Still don't think it's gonna be great. It does also get some new moves this generation. I'm gonna put it in D tier just because it looks like they're trying to give it some love, but I don't know. I'm not convinced. Hariyama. Oh, big Hariyama. Oh, I'm going to put Hariyama, like, high up here. I know this is going to be controversial. Hariyama's A tier. Maybe at the end of A tier. I think it's going to be great for Trick Room teams, specifically, right? I think it's going to be very strong for Trick Room teams. Just because, like, Flame Orb and Guts, it does way too much damage. It also gets really good coverage moves. Hariyama's a beast, man. Swalot, trash. Glalie, trash. Donphan D, maybe? You could maybe make some things happen with Donphan. Not a great Pokemon. Primeape also D. I'll say Cacturne is D. Grumpig trash. Altaria kind of also D tier. You don't want to use it, but it's there. Sableye. Big boost on Sableye for being one of the few Quash users in the game. It doesn't get access to Tailwind like the Murkrow does, so I'm going to go ahead and stick it in B tier. Just because I feel like Murkrow does a lot of things a lot better than Sableye. And Sableye kind of does feel like the second friend when it comes to that duo. Honchkrow C tier. I mean, it's okay. It's okay. Murkrow is better because Murkrow gets Prankster. That's pretty much the issue with Honchkrow as a Pokemon. Pyukumuku D, I guess. Oricorio trash. Sawsbuck also trash. Ooh, Talonflame is gonna tear it up this meta. Again, same reason. Talonflame being priority Tailwind is huge. And also Covert Cloak. Did we forget about that thing that, you know, you can't get fake outed anymore? Amazing. Also one of the fastest speeds in the game. I think Talonflame S tier. Mark my words. Don't actually, because I could be wrong. But mark my words, Talonflame is going to be very strong. Umbreon B. I think Umbreon's a solid B. Can be very strong, especially on Sun teams. Espeon, maybe a C. Spiritomb, D. Not impressed. I'm gonna say Hippowdon is probably A. Again, this is where I'm putting my weather setters. The issue with Hippowdon is that it's a lot worse than Tyranitar. In fact, I would honestly say Hippowdon is probably B tier simply because Tyranitar exists. You really have no reason to use Hippowdon over Tyranitar. Especially now that you can change the Tyranitar's typing. Wigglytuff C, Venomoth D, Slowking I'll kind of put next to Slowbro. They make sense together. Gardevoir is probably a high B. I think it'll be decent. It does have a good stab type in, you know, Fairy Psychic. Also very strong, especially offensively. Sneasel, I think, will probably be the highest B. Sneasel's really good. And in fact, in my opinion, better than Weavile because they kind of do similar things, except Sneasel gets inner focus. Weavile does not, so you can actually avoid getting flinched by Fake Out. And also, you have a plethora of supportive move options. All right, let's go through some Rotoms here. I think Rotom Wash, definitely A. Heat, probably up there with Wash. Mo, probably B. I'll give it top of B. Fan, I don't think Fan is worse than some of these Pokemon. I also don't think Fan is better than these C tier Pokemon, so I'll stick Fan and Frost in C tier. Carbink D, Masquerain kind of also D. It gets Intimidate, but that's it. Floatzel probably C, if not D. Actually, I'll leave it in D. Weavile I could put next to Sneasel. They're kind of the same Pokemon. Weavile is a little bit worse. Basculin F. I mean, it's garbage. Basculegion maybe. But Basculin, absolute F. Frostlass D. Pyroar, a little bit of a C. It's not bad. It's just not better than some other fire types like Talonflame or Rotom Heat, for example. Volcarona is going to be really good, though. I think Volcarona might have a place. Might definitely have a place. Probably an A is the right place, I think, for Volcarona. It has redirection. It has a great typing. I can see Volcarona being up there with Rotom Heat as a potential fire type. Oh, our friend Grimmsnarl. S+. Grimmsnarl has to go to S+, dude. Grimmsnarl is probably one of the most diverse supportive Pokemon that was added to this metagame. In this Gen 8 metagame, dude. Grimmsnarl is absolutely correct. It gets way too many supportive move options, and it does way too much damage, even if you don't want to do damage. It's ridiculous. Serena, solid S tier, dude. Especially with the immunity to priority being available with the Queenly Majesty. Solid S tier on Serena, man. There's just no other way to put it. Queenly Majesty is going to take over. For example, like, you can't even Talonflame Bravebird Serena if you have Gale Wings activated. That's nuts. Muck D. Hypno also D. Medicham D. Cloyster I can give C to. Cloyster does have Skill Link. Can maybe do something there. In fact, now that I'm looking at my list a little bit more, I think I'm demoting Wigglytuff to D. Ampharos C? Maybe, just because it's a slow electric type. I guess that's not too common, so it does have that. I'll give a B to Haxorus. I think Haxorus is good because it does get Mold Breaker, which is one of the few Pokemon that do get Mold Breaker, and it's one of the greatest ways to just counter Rotoms in general. And as you can see with the list, Rotoms will be kind of popular around here. So I think Haxorus will have a niche, that's for sure. Hydreigon's gonna have a lot of fun with Terra. That much I know. In fact, I'll put Hydreigon right next to Salamence up here. I think they could be friends up here in the A tier. Oh, dude, Hatterene. Hatterene is going to be good. It's going to be one of the best Pivotal Trick Room setters. Yeah, Hatterene's up here. Hatterene is definitely up here. I think Hatterene is S tier. Now, and since we're talking about Hatterene, how do we talk about Hatterene without the Indeedee? Indeedee's S+ tier. Indeedee is going to have Psychic Terrain to avoid prankster moves or priority moves in general. It's also going to have Follow Me, Helping Hand, every move under the book. We have no word on Expanding Force yet, but honestly, man, Hatterene even before Expanding Force and Indeedee even before Expanding Force were still very strong as a duo. Since we're on Indeedee, we have the other one to talk about. I don't quite know where to stick this thing. I think a B tier is okay. It does have access to like Ally Switch and Trick Room and stuff, but I mean, the other one's just better. I think Drifblim is going to be fun. I think Drifblim is another solid B tier. Very big niche, but Drifblim plus Indeedee takes me back, baby. It's also going to be one of the fastest Tailwind users in the game. Don't sleep on that. Don't sleep on that, because yes, we do have priority Tailwind users like this and this, but being fast and still having that Tailwind, you know, with the Unburden is still very, very useful. And the other thing that Drifblim has above these two is the access to Strength Sap. If you guys don't know what Strength Sap does, it's one of the best healing moves in the game that also simultaneously lowers your opponent's physical attack. Really good. Lumineon C. Lumineon D. Quagsire, I'll give a C to. Quagsire has a place in the world. I just don't know if it's on my tier list, so I'll stick it right in the middle. I think Leafeon and Glaceon kind of both belong in C tier. They do okay, but why wouldn't you just use a Rotom Mow or even a Rotom Frost, for example, or like any other ice-type Pokemon in the game? Speaking of ice types, we have Abomasnow. This is a hard one because Abomasnow is, I think, the only Hail setter in the game. So if you want to run Hail, you have to run Abomasnow, which is unfortunate. So that's the only reason I'm giving it B tier, just because it has that going for it. But that's the only reason, because its typing isn't that good, its offenses aren't that good, and its speed even isn't that good. Mimikyu, that's an A tier for sure. Might even be an S tier, to be honest. I'm gonna stick it in A, just because I feel like it belongs more in A. Mimikyu is one of the best Trick Room setters in the game, guys. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. In fact, I could argue that Mimikyu is technically more reliable than Hatterene, but at the same time, Hatterene can do a lot more damage than the Mimikyu can do, and the Hatterene has a better type combination with the Indeedee. Ooh, it's a hard call, man. Do I put Mimikyu in S? I might leave it here for now. Lilligant's gonna be stupid strong, guys. You know why? This is why. Lilligant next to Torkoal, man. You get to use, because you know the whole Lilycole combo with after you Eruption? You now get to Terra-type that Eruption into a fire move in the sun from a Torkoal. That's now getting times 2 boost to it instead of times 1.5 because of the stab. That is wild. And that's going to be absolutely terrifying to play against, and everyone and their mother's going to try it out, so you better come up with a combination that can stop it right now. Maybe like a Flash Fire Pokemon. Bisharp's a good A. I think Bisharp's pretty good. I think it does a lot of damage, and its Steel type definitely does help it a lot. Braviary, kind of also an A, but not too much. It does get Defiant, so it does have that added benefit of dealing with these Intimidators that are entering the metagame. So I can give Braviary an A. Staraptor, maybe a B. It's not the best flying normal type in the world, but it does get Intimidate, so that's one thing to consider. Camerupt, C. Wishcash, C. Houndoom, C. Vespiquen, D. Mismagius, C. Crocodile, spooky big Crocodile. A tier for short. It's one of the, again, one of the Intimidator trios that are entering the metagame. Intimidate's a pretty good ability if you guys didn't notice, so Crocodile, we'll find a nice place here. Call this home. Call the A tier home. Goodra, also kind of A tier, but maybe not. It depends on... It really does depend on whether Hisui and Goodra is going to be allowed in the game. And since we're not talking about Hisui and Goodra, because that's going to be a home Pokemon, I think regular Goodra belongs in B tier. Hisui and Goodra can probably belong in A or S. I have yet to see what it does, but adding Steel type to a Dragon typically goes well. Young Goose, F. Go-Goat, F. Lurantis, B. Cryogonal, D. Actually, Cryogonal, F. Go-Goat, D. I'll promote Go-Goat. Greedent, C. It does get Belly Drum, which is kind of cool. Can act like as a baby Snorlax. Noivern's going to be a very fast Tailwind setter. So Noivern is going to probably enter this B tier. I might even put it next to Goodra. Golduck, C. It's good sometimes. Not most times. Magnezone, I think B. Magnezone's going to be pretty strong. It has one of the strongest special attack stats in the game. And also, its added Steel type gives it a lot of resistances. You really just have to worry about ground type. But hey, we have this magical thing called Terra types, so you can even avoid that entirely if you'd like. Bronzong's a great setter. I think Bronzong's A tier easily for Trick Room. Clawitzer, C. Toxicroak, C. Avalugg, C. All right, let's do the Liking Rocks. Get them all out of the way here. I'm going to give the Sandrush one a B tier just because it's fast. And I'm going to throw the Dusk. It gets Tough Claws, but I don't think it's that good. And I think the Night one is also not that great. Zoroark, I'll stick in C. It has a cool thing with Illusion, but that's it. Vivillon, D. Alomomola, D. Bruxious, D. Colossal. Whoo! Here's a Pokemon that used to be very darn good, but we have no idea if it is anymore because Dynamax doesn't exist. I think Steam Engine is still very strong to at least give this Pokemon a top of B for sure. Right? The thing is, the Steam Engine is going to end up hurting a lot more now, or the Water type is going to end up hurting a lot more. But here's the thing. You could Terra type into a Water type, still have the Steam Engine proc, and have not that much damage be dealt to you. And now that I'm saying that out loud, this might be pretty good over here. I don't know. No, screw it. Colossal can be in A tier. The Dene, D. Kamala, F. Ursaring, I guess C, but we have Ursaluna, so I don't know. It does get Guts, and it does get Flame Orb, and it does get good moves, but its stats are not quite there. In fact, I'd say D. Maybe top of D, but definitely still D. Luxray, C. I think Luxray is definitely the best of the electric types. That is bottom of the barrel electric types, like the Rotom, the Frost, and the Ampharos, and the Dedenne. Definitely the best out of all of those. In fact, maybe I even give C just simply because Luxray at least gets Intimidate, right? Lucario, I'll give a B. I don't know, man. Lucario's weird. Lucario should be better than it is, but it's not. I'll give it a B, though. I'll give it a B. I think it's better than Zoroark. Toxtricity, I can also see myself giving a B to. I do think Toxtricity is better than Jolteon. It might not be as good as Luxray, for example, but I don't think it's bad. It just really needs to work on that speed. Sylveon A, man. Sylveon's going to tear it up. Fairy in general is going to be very good, and especially like hyper voice boosted hyper voices from Pixelate that you can now Terra type into a fairy. That's going to be a ridiculous amount of damage. I think Sylveon's going to be very good for this meta. Dhelmise too. Dhelmise is one of the few Pokemon that can have 4 stab moves. Now, thanks to Terra type. I don't think it's going to be A tier. I definitely think it's going to be good. I just don't know where to put it. I'm going to stick it in B for now because it can be a pretty good Trick Room abuser. Dreadnought, I think a C. I think a C is where it's at. It does good in Swift Swim, but that's about it. Hawlucha, probably also a C. Toxapex is really strong in singles. And I think just for that fact, I can stick it in B. Yeah, I could probably stick it in B. It's not as good as Goodra, but it's definitely going to be strong. Florges C? Maybe not. Maybe Florges is a B. I don't know. Florges is weird, man. Florges is really weird simply because it doesn't have a great move pool, but maybe that'll change. Who knows? Pangoro is definitely a C. Abominable. C. Electros, unimpressed. I think C. It's definitely worse than Luxray and worse than Rotom Cut, right? Pachirisu gets Follow Me, maybe. And I think that this one gets World Champ points, right? This one, I'll give Patchy a B. It's worked hard to deserve that spot. Ferroskewt is probably the best Swift Swim user that is going to be in this game. I just don't know how good that's going to be, or even if it's going to be relevant, because it doesn't do that much damage when it's not Dynamaxed. So I'm giving it a very tentative B, but I'll put it in B. Mudsdale is going to be absolutely correct. I think Mudsdale is going to be really nice, especially with stamina. Going to be one of the best Trick Room Pokemon in the game as well with Mudsdale here. I'm going to give Mudsdale a solid A. Whew, Corviknight, forget about it. Yeah, Corviknight gets an A easily. Corviknight's one of the best Iron Defense Body Press mods. Also has one of the best defensive typings in the game. Does get Brave Bird, does get a lot of supportive moves, does get Mirror Armor, which is really good against Intimidate. Corviknight gets A. Crustle, probably a C for Crustle. Golisopod, I guess I'll give it C. Salazzle, C. Poltegeist, I could see Poltegeist as a C. It does have Shell Smash, which is cool, but that's about it. I'll give a C to Beartic because it's one of the few Slush Rush users in the meta. So, I mean, Abomasnow's got to have a friend. Palossand, I'll give a C to Palossand as well. It does good with water compaction, but that's pretty much it. Flapple's going to be rough now that Dynamax is gone because you really only have Hustle to do the damage, and that's not very reliable. C. Appleton definitely has a place in the world, especially with Gastrodons and with like needing better grass types. Do I think that Appleton is about the same as Rotom Cut or even Lurantis? No. So I think I have to give it the C tier. Copperage is a pretty good Trick Room abuser. Does also have Sheer Force and Life Orb, which is pretty cool for this mod as well. In Dynamax format, it never got the chance to shine. But I think now that Dynamax is gone, maybe this might be Copperage's time. I'm going to stick it in B tier. This is kind of a wild pick or a pocket pick. This is my opinion pick. So yeah, I think Copperage might have more of a chance to fight here in Scarlet and Violet. ISQ is not that great, C. Sandaconda, C, especially now that you don't have Dynamax. In fact, no, Sandaconda, D. Phalanx is a good C. I like Phalanx. Stonejourner, I'm going to give B just because Power Spot is pretty good. Could definitely make some things happen with Power Spot, especially with boosting your Terra boosted moves. Frostmoth tried its best, C. And that leaves the last Pokemon on the list. For some reason, it's Berserker. So here we have Berserker. Where are we sticking the Berserker? Honestly though, hear me out, because I've used some Berserker in my day. Berserker gets Steely Spirit. You can out Terra boost that Steely Spirit, or even just have it stand next to a Pokemon that Terra boosts into Steel. For example, Scizor. Right. That's now a Steely Spirit boosted, Terra boosted, Life Orb boosted, Technician boosted, Stab, Bullet Punch, priority move. That's a lot of damage, friend. So, for a Pokemon that does get Steely Spirit and that does get Fake Out and does get a plethora of other supportive options, I might not give it A, but I'm giving it B. I'm giving Berserker B. And there you have the completed list of what I think will be very competitive and very strong in Scarlet and Violet. As you can see, our S tier consists of Arcanine, Amoonguss, Tyranitar, Grimmsnarl, and Indeedee Female, followed by the Dragapult, Dragonite, Garchomp, Serena, Talonflame, Hatterene, and Mimikyu for the S spot. And then the A tier, you can read yourselves because I'm not reciting all these Pokemon's name for you. And then the list goes on. I will leave a picture or a link to this list down below in the description. I will also leave a link to the actual list that you can make your own tiers with. And then tweet at us at Pokésports Pod on Twitter with your Scarlet and Violet tier lists for the returning Pokemon if you guys are interested. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you did, hit the like button down below so that we can consider making some more tier lists in the future. Subscribe to the channel if you're excited for Scarlet and Violet, which is coming out very, very soon. And with that said, I'm Kevin Pokésports. Thank you guys so much for watching. Have a great night, and peace out. Bye-bye.